Good evening. More than 70,000 people who live in Wales were born in other European countries. Some have been in London today to lobby Parliament for the right to stay here after Britain leaves the European Union. One man from Germany who's been here for 40 years has told us he wants assurances he can remain, but fears his family could be broken up by Brexit. Our parliamentary correspondent David Cornock reports.
We are all immigrants. In this valley, we are all immigrants.
Gerhard Kress has lived in the UK for 40 years. But for how much longer will the artist be able to call Pontypridd home? Once Britain leaves the EU, he fears he may have to leave the UK and his family.
It gives us the occasional night, with a restless sleep, to say the least. It is the uncertainty. I mean, you do need to know one way or another, which way your life is going to develop, what is going to happen.
Gerhard's one of 72,000 people born in the European Union who now live in Wales. The area with the highest number of EU citizens is Cardiff, where around 11,000 live, followed by Wrexham, home to 7,000 people from the EU. 23,000 Polish people live here, making it the most common EU country of birth. There are 11,000 Germans like Gerhard in Wales and 10,000 people from the Republic of Ireland. Some of them gathered at the Senedd in Cardiff to protest this lunchtime. Others, including Gerhard and his family, headed for Westminster, where the House of Lords is debating Brexit.
What do you want to hear from the government?
Well, personally, I have a family, and many people in my position have families. I don't want my family to break up. So what I would like to know is, am I and people like me going to be allowed to carry on living here in a place that we consider our home?
His wife says it's not only those born abroad who could be affected.
Potentially, I'm probably getting on for 250,000 people across Wales who are either EU nationals or EU nationals' family members, who are facing the potential for either family breakup or deportation. That's an awful lot of people. I know quite a lot of them, and it is horrible.
Gerhard and Sally have the support of their local MP.
We've lived here, Gerhard and his wife, for more than 30 years. I met another constituent, a French woman called Gail, who's lived in Pontypridd for 10 years. These are people who consider themselves to be Welsh these days, and they should be allowed to stay here. They shouldn't be bargaining chips in some game of poker over Brexit.
The Home Office says that securing the status of EU nationals living here in the UK will be a priority, along with the status of British nationals living in the EU. But ministers find themselves under pressure on the issue as the bill to trigger Brexit goes through the House of Lords.
In a packed House of Lords, the government gave little sign of any concession.
My Lords, this bill is not the place to try and shape the terms of our exit, restrict the government's hand before it enters into complex negotiations, or attempt to rerun the referendum.
Almost 200 peers, including 5 former Secretaries of State for Wales, are expected to take part in this marathon debate, with the Lords due to sit past midnight.
David, as you say, that debate behind you is going to go on for many hours yet, but it is just the latest step in the Brexit process, isn't it?
It is, but it's an important step because the government does not have a majority in the House of Lords. It can't always be certain of getting its way. Now, that doesn't mean that peers are going to be able to block Brexit or delay it, but it does mean when they get down to the nitty-gritty next week on things like the future of people like Gerhard and the others who are born elsewhere but now live in Wales and the rest of the UK, the government could come under pressure. The House of Lords could ask the government to think again on that. The government could be defeated on that, although my sense is that the Lords is not prepared to dig in for a long fight on it, and that means that Theresa May will be on course to trigger those divorce talks with the EU by the end of March, by the end of next month. And we've seen some heated debates here, Jamie, over the past days and weeks, even in the House of Lords, but there'll be nothing compared to those tough negotiations when Britain starts talking with the other EU countries.
David Cornock in Westminster, thank you. President Donald Trump's state visit to the UK has also been the centre of debate in Parliament today. The Newport West MP Paul Flynn opened the proceedings, prompted by two petitions, both passing the 100,000 signature threshold. The one opposing the invitation has received more than 1.8 million names. Meanwhile, the petition supporting the visit has over 300,000 signatures. Mr Flynn argued a controversial character like Mr Trump should not be an honoured guest.
He should come here on business or other matters, but he shouldn't be accorded the rare privilege of a state visit. Only two presidents of the United States have been granted a state visit since 1952. It's extraordinary that that's the situation. But here we have a position where 7 days into his presidency, he's invited to have the full panoply of a state visit. Extraordinary.
Well, there are anti-Trump protests taking place across South Wales to coincide with that debate. In St David's, in Pembrokeshire and in Swansea. The biggest by far is in Cardiff, and our reporter Daniel Davis is in the city centre for us tonight. Dan, quite a turnout there this evening.
Yes, well, Jamie, as members of Parliament have been giving their views on Donald Trump's state visit to the UK, protesters, a couple of hundred of them here in Cardiff, have been doing the same, waving placards, making clear what they think about Mr Trump's travel ban and his stance towards refugees and migrants. I'm joined by two of them from Muslim Council of Wales and Canon Aled Edwards from Churches Together. Kateen, Zaha, what's brought you out onto the street tonight?
Today I'm here to make a stance against hate, against bigotry. Trump is a manifestation of all the social ills you can imagine, of racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, misogyny, all of these. And we're making a stance here that he is not welcomed in the UK. Yes, we accept the results of the democracy. We respect that he's been elected as a president, but at least he must apologise for all his comments against Muslims, against black people, against women, against disabled and against homosexuals.
Well, you say you respect the democratic result of the election. You don't think he has a mandate to do what he said he would do? You may be appalled by it, but isn't this what he promised his voters he would do?
Well, that's the problem. We are here to provide advice, to provide criticism to his approach. The fact is that what is he promoting? It's not acceptable. Although he's been elected as a president, we want to cause a wake-up call. We want to the people to question why they have been elected someone like him, because hate is hate and bigotry goes around.
Aled Edwards, you were in America at the time of the election hoping Hillary Clinton would win. She didn't. Don't we now have to get on with the man in the White House?
Well, in a sense, if his policies were sane and sensible and well thought through, that they respected the fact that he has a minority administration, he did not win the popular vote. He's also gone to heads with the media and the press, and he should remember the First Amendment. But more crucially as well, he's gone against the law. We have to remember that two courts of law, very significant legal bodies in the US, have said that the ban over the introduction of Muslims into the countries from those 7 named countries were unlawful, and we have to stand for each other. We have to say that we belong with each other, but we also have to stand for the rule of law, and that is one of the most troubling aspects of the potential of him coming here.
Aled Edwards, Zaha Al-Faifi, thank you both very much. They've been chanting here, Jamie, that refugees are welcome here. I doubt very much that Donald Trump would find a very warm welcome, at least with these protesters tonight.
Daniel Davis, thank you. Neath Port Talbot Council has written to the American Embassy in London after a teacher who works at Llangatwg Comprehensive was denied entry to the USA on a school trip last week. Joel Meyer was escorted off the plane, which was flying from Reykjavik in Iceland to New York. The local authority says Mr Meyer had a valid visit for travel. The brother of a Cardiff student murdered by her boyfriend at their flat in the Llandaff area has told of her family's heartache and pain. Cardiff Crown Court heard a statement from 24-year-old Shishi B's brother explaining how he had lost a sister and a best friend. She died after being attacked by Jordan Matthews in August last year. He'll be sentenced tomorrow. A man who cut his own throat while waiting to be sentenced in the dock at Haverfordwest Magistrates has admitted taking a kitchen knife into the court. Paramedics were called to treat Łukasz Pawłowski from Pembroke Dock last month. Today he was remanded in custody and his case at Swansea Crown Court was adjourned for sentencing next month. They service surveillance equipment like night vision goggles for the military, and in a 6-year deal, Keyoptic, based in St Asaph in Denbighshire, has secured an £82 million government contract. Matthew Richards reports.
Soldiers, sailors and pilots with the British Armed Forces regularly view combat through lenses made in Wales. Keyoptic is a world leader in optical electronics, things like night vision and thermal imaging, particularly for use in targeting and surveillance. The St Asaph-based company says the £82 million contract is a true reflection of the high-quality work it produces.
There's perhaps two reasons why we won the contract. First, the people here, the commitment, the skill, the ability, the dedication, and secondly, the support of the Welsh Government. They have been instrumental in ensuring we have the facility that we need to deliver this contract.
The Welsh Government is to build a £2.5 million facility next to Keyoptic's site to support the new work. The company's come a long way from its roots in Pilkington, the glassmaker. Having developed their skills over their 51-year history, Keyoptic now has the expertise to create incredibly complex things like this thermal weapons scope. And now this new contract means they'll be able to maintain and repair them wherever they're being used throughout the world. And Keyoptic isn't alone. In October, a £130 million deal maintaining RAF Sentinel jets went to Raytheon, based at Broughton in Flintshire. A month later, the Decker factory at Sealand in Flintshire was picked to maintain the electronics and components of the new F-35 fighter aircraft.
It also breeds confidence in the region because we've seen the announcements in relation to the F-35 centre being located in Deeside. This decision again highlights the fact that North Wales does have and does possess some high quality jobs in the technical field which can compete with the best in the world.
Keyoptic has led the field in optical electronics, but it's part of a cluster of similar firms in North East Wales at the cutting edge.
Optics and electronics are in pretty much everything that people use today, anything from your mobile phone to a huge telescope. So it touches pretty much everybody's lives these days. So it's not an industry in itself, it's an enabling technology across everything that exists, really.
Keyoptic lenses are used in medicine, in the battlefield and even in space. It's little wonder that the MOD has set its sights on the work of the 500 people based here.
Matthew Richards reporting. You're watching Wales Today from the BBC. Much more to come before 7 o'clock. The film made by a bunch of friends from Blaenau Gwent, shot in a language they didn't understand, scoops a top award. Children born with a rare genetic condition that makes them sociable and friendly risk growing up feeling isolated and depressed because there's a lack of knowledge about the condition. That's the warning tonight from an expert at Swansea University. Williams syndrome affects just a few hundred people here, including Harrison Evans from Newbridge. David Grundy has been to meet him.
This is Harry. He's 3. He loves bouncing on his trampoline and playing with his big yellow helicopter at home in Newbridge. He has Williams syndrome. It's a rare genetic condition that affects between 300 and 400 people in Wales. It takes around 25,000 genes to make a human, but with Williams syndrome, around 25 genes are randomly deleted from the middle of chromosome 7. It can cause a catalogue of health issues, including developmental delays, mobility problems and even heart conditions. But children who are born with it are also often extremely social and friendly. But there are concerns about how much support people like Harry get.
We do see a lot of different GPs. It's hard because only 1 in 5 GPs have ever come across the condition. So
it's typically a case of you go in and they say, he's got Williams syndrome. All right, OK. And you think, well, did you actually understand what that is?
Yeah.
It's not a, yes, it's OK, because you don't know what you're doing. And the next thing they put in sticks in his mouth to see the back of his throat, texture intolerance, sick straight away. And you think, well, he didn't really understand what we said.
Harry loves a trip to his local supermarket in Pont Llanfraith. Familiar faces and a warm welcome. Staff here know Harry, but to raise the profile of Williams syndrome and other learning conditions, the Welsh Government has set aside £20 million, some of which will go on raising awareness. And there could be more support at school, things like speech and physiotherapy. But what concerns experts is how other people cope with the tactile nature of adults with Williams syndrome.
Sadly, people aren't always that kind, and it's not always the people's fault, because if someone rushes up to you smiling that you've never seen before, you don't really know how to react. Unless you know that the person has Williams syndrome, you're going to pull back, being very, very Welsh and British about this and a little bit reserved. We're not very good at that, and that causes a lot of distress to the individual with Williams syndrome.
Harry's parents hope that if more people just know what Williams syndrome is, he won't grow up feeling isolated and lonely, because all he wants is to be your friend.
A film written by a group of friends from Blaenau Gwent has won an award at the prestigious London International Film Festival. The Bench used first-time actors, some with special educational needs, and was shot in Polish, a language none of the writers can speak. Paul Heaney reports.
It's a story centred on two young men, one of whom develops a special mental power. An extraordinary tale, both on screen and off. A group of friends worked on a script for months in their spare time here in Tredegar. The twist came when the director swapped the South Wales Valleys for southwest Poland. He was filming with a Welsh charity supporting an orphanage here in Legnica when he was struck by the location and the willingness of the town's people to help.
They'd done everything they could to help us. At one stage, I actually said to them, you know, what's in it for you guys? And they said, well, you're working with our youngsters and you're promoting our town. And they said that's enough.
The main actors came from the local high school, but others came from the orphanage. Some had special educational needs. The diversity in the casting meant finding volunteer translators was easier than you'd think.
Special needs children and the children from the orphanage never had any chance like that, and possibly they will never ever have anything like that after this. There is a special type of relationship now between us and them, and they will remember us and we will remember them.
At the weekend, it was judged to be the best original screenplay of a foreign language film.
When it came up, we was gobsmacked. I think we just stared at each other for a couple of seconds before we sat down, thought we better get up and receive this award before they start shouting at us to get on stage.
But those behind it say they'd already won the real award, being able to bring people together and giving children with special needs a real chance.
Let's get all of tonight's sport now. Here's Claire.
Jamie, thank you very much. Hello, good evening. Now, when he became manager of Cardiff City, Neil Warnock said he wanted to bring back the excitement to the club. Well, the veteran boss is certainly giving fans plenty to cheer about, with the side enjoying an incredible revival under him. Well, Neil Warnock will meet with the club chairman tonight amid calls for an agreement to be thrashed out to ensure he stays beyond this season. Thomas David has more.
He's turned Cardiff City's fortunes around, but will Neil Warnock stay on next season? The manager, who wants assurances over his summer transfer budget, is dining with the club's chairman tonight. This former captain says the club should ensure he remains manager.
You protect your assets. The manager is an asset, so Cardiff need to keep him there. I'd like it to be settled quickly, because I'd like Neil Warnock to get the targets he has in mind. And of course, we're talking about Neil Warnock. There'll be other people in different boardrooms also talking about Neil Warnock.
The win over Rotherham United at the weekend has helped Neil Warnock's side to the top half of the table. Not bad for a side who were second from bottom in October. They scored 5 goals, the most they've managed in 7 years. This spectacular third goal from Craig Noon was followed by efforts from Kenneth Zahor. He made it 4, then 5-0 with this, sealing a third win in a row, continuing their impressive form in 2017. If the league had started in January, they'd be top of the table.
Neil Warnock is a vastly experienced manager. He has overseen 1,300 games at 12 different league clubs in a career stretching over nearly 3 decades.
He has secured promotion 7 times before, so surely he is the right man for Cardiff City.
100%, yeah. I mean, there's no question of that. I mean, the question is whether, you know, the club's ambitions follow Neil's at the end of the day. I think he's made it blatantly clear that he wants to stay.
So what guarantees will Warnock want from the club?
First and foremost, you can't do anything without money. And I mean, I know it's easy to say, and I'm not one of these people who says, oh, you know, just get the money out, get the checkbook out. I understand the predicament the owner is in.
Budgets are tight. 3 years after relegation from the Premier League, multi-million-pound parachute payments come to an end this season. But many hope a deal can be struck to ensure the manager stays to challenge for promotion next season and seal a return to the Premier League.
Now, Gareth Bale made a stunning return to football this weekend. The 27-year-old came on for Real Madrid in the 71st minute and showed that he was right back with this goal. He's been out of action since November following ankle surgery and says he's still lacking fitness. But his return is a big boost for Chris Coleman. Wales's World Cup qualifier against the Republic of Ireland takes place in Dublin next month. Now, one bit of rugby news for you tonight. The Ospreys have announced they've signed Wales centre Corey Allen from the Cardiff Blues. The 24-year-old, who's played 4 times for Wales, has signed a 2-year deal with the region. He's been with the Blues for 6 seasons. Disappointment for UFC fighter Jack Marshman over the weekend, whose latest fight in Canada was stopped in the second round. The 27-year-old from Abertillery was caught out by his Brazilian opponent and fell to the floor, causing the referee to step in. Well, the defeat ends Marshman's 7-fight winning streak.
I put a lot into my fight. I showed a lot of heart always, and you know, I'm a bit gutted it got stopped really, because I would have loved to see the third round, just because I think we would have put on even more of a show, because the fans loved it, and that's what I'm about. It didn't come off for me tonight, but you know, I'm on to the next one.
And a snooker, Stuart Bingham took the Welsh Open snooker title, surviving a comeback from Judd Trump to win 9-8. The Englishman won the last 2 frames, sealing victory with a break of 55. News today, too, that 15-year-old Welsh snooker sensation Jackson Page, who made plenty of headlines last week, he now says he wants to join the professional ranks as soon as possible. And we were hoping to bring you an interview with Ryan Giggs this evening. He's being in Fishguard today, talking about all things to do with football. You can hear from him in our late bulletin at 10:30. Now, though, time for the weather, and Derek's here with the forecast.
Thanks very much, Claire. Well, unfortunately, not the best of weather for half-term this week. Damp or wet at times, strong winds in the forecast, mostly mild, but a brief cold snap on the way later this week. Now, talking of mild, temperatures today have been above average, well above in Bodlewithen and Harden, 16 Celsius there, 61 Fahrenheit. Now, the sun did come out briefly in Mountain Ash, but Penturk stays dull, damp and misty all day, as you can see by this Weather Watchers picture. And it's more of the same tonight, really. Cloudy, some patches of drizzle, some rain on the way as well, some heavy persistent rain for mid-Wales, the Cambrian Mountains, mist and hill fog, and a mild night. These temperatures are the sort of values you'd expect during the day at this time of year. Now, tomorrow's chart shows a warm front line through Ireland and southern England. That's going to bring more moisture in from the Atlantic. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, cloudy, a few places dry, but some damp weather as well. Low cloud, mist and hill fog, some poor visibility. Parts of the north, including Wrexham and Llandudno, should be dry with a light breeze. So during the day tomorrow, there will be some dry weather, perhaps a hint of brightness in the north and east, but it won't last. More drizzle and rain is expected during the afternoon. The wind's picking up with temperatures once again above the seasonal average, 10 to 12 Celsius typically, 13 or 14 on the north coast and in Flintshire. In Merthyr Tydfil tomorrow, drizzle and fog, 10 Celsius the high in Treharris. In the Marches, cloudy tomorrow, drizzle and fog. Should be mostly dry in Monmouth with a high of 12 in Prestine. And then tomorrow night, cloudy and windy, some patchy rain, some heavier rain spreading into North and Mid Wales after midnight. And again, those strong winds will keep temperatures up. Wednesday morning then, strong winds and rain to contend with. Some heavy rain clearing away southeastwards. Should turn drier and a bit brighter in the afternoon. The wind easing. More rain, though, approaching Pembrokeshire. Then on Wednesday night into Thursday, a deep area of low pressure looks set to cross the UK. That's going to bring a spell of wet and windy weather, strong to gale force winds. We could see a risk of some snow in the north. And then as that low moves away, we've got some colder air heading our way in its wake. So temperatures on Friday will be nearer the seasonal average. Some sunshine, but also 1 or 2 showers and lighter winds by then as well. But overnight into Saturday, you guessed it, it's all change again. More wind, rain and drizzle. So lots going on. Don't forget you can keep up to date with the forecast on our website, and you can follow me on Twitter as well. Jamie.
Derek, thank you. The headlines again. People living in Britain who were born in other European countries have been in Westminster today to lobby Parliament for the right to stay here after Britain leaves the European Union.
I have a family, and many people in my position have families. I don't want my family to break up. So what I would like to know is, am I and people like me going to be allowed to carry on living here in the place that we consider our home?
Tonight's other headlines. Anti-Trump protests have taken place this evening in Cardiff, Swansea and St David's in Pembrokeshire to coincide with the parliamentary debate on the President's planned state visit to the UK. Over 1 million people have signed a petition against his visit. I'll have an update for you on that after the BBC News at 10. And there's much more on all of our stories on our website, bbc.co.uk/Wales News. That's Wales Today. Thank you for watching this evening. Ryan Giggs, Derek and I will be here. From all of us on the programme, good evening.